Present.
Mr. Bonner,
Present.
Mrs. Corzine, Mr. Mullins.
Present. Want to do the pledge, or no one's here tonight, so we'll just skip the pledge for now. Adoption of the board agenda. Everyone has a copy of their board agenda. Any changes?
No.
If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hartman,
Second.
second by Mr. Bonner. Roll.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Oh, yes. I
Mr.
approve.
Bonner,
Yes.
Mrs. Corzine,
Yes.
Mr. Mullins.
Yes.
Mr. Hartman.
Yes.
Okay, presentation. Mr. Matt Valentine is going to go through the graduation ceremony for us.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm not sure why Google shows up in the middle of this. How do I click this, Mary?
Yeah, there. Arrows
Yeah,
far right.
on the screen.
Yeah. They should-
They blend in probably because they're white.
It was
there you
Yeah,
go.
there you go.
Wait for it. All right. So essentially what we're trying to figure out is a way to get our graduates to walk, per se, without having a large gathering and to stay within the confines of what the expectations of our government is. And so we got a team together of many different folks from different avenues and walks of life that can help us hopefully pull this graduation plan off. So I'm giving you each a copy of the deck. I didn't know if it was ended up on the board drive or not, but at least something for you to take home and consider. But our proposal is to be able to hold graduation individually, one student at a time, over the period of 4 days, 4 long days. May 12th through 15th, essentially starting at 8 a.m. to 3:15 p.m., with graduation being held on the stage versus the auditorium, or the gymnasium that we're used to. Main reason for that is, you'll see here in a moment, my plan for keeping people separated and continuing with the social distancing expectations, and that end of the building just facilitates to that need. So what we would essentially do is record the graduation ceremony with the help of Mrs. Vanessa George and Mr. Andrew Vidito. And as graduates walk across the stage, they'd be presented with a diploma. We're working on how exactly this will work. Some thoughts are to leave it on the table and acknowledge them as they walk across without having any handshake or interaction, which could potentially spread the virus. So we still have to work out logistics as to what we want to do to acknowledge our graduates without doing the traditional handshake and without personal physical contact. And then letters would be sent as soon as this approval is given by the board to move forward with this plan. I've given you a copy of that letter. Anywhere you see an XXX would be a personalization of the letter. So each graduate would be assigned a specific date, a specific time of arrival, and a specific time of graduation. And I'll show you the overall plan as to what that looks like here in a moment. But essentially, they would be given 5-minute arrival times that are 5 minutes apart, and they're expected to bring immediate family only, which we're saying is no more than 6 to the school. That 6 number comes from the number of tickets that we would have initially issued any given student. So we're keeping it in the same lines that we would on a normal graduation ceremony. And then with the number of people that would be up close to the stage, we stay within that number of 10. We would have some in the back videoing, but because of the large space, didn't necessarily think that would be a major issue. And when I say a few, we're talking about probably, I'd say 3 at max, 1 up in the bird's nest for the upper part, and 2 down. Getting 3 different camera angles and having 3 different cameras running so that we avoid any potential, if one camera gives out or doesn't record, we have 2 others as a backup and be able to change the angle of our final production, which I'll talk about here in a moment. So graduates would enter through the south parking lot. They'd be welcomed by a greeter. We do have in the letter that their expectation would be that everybody has a mask on. So if they don't have a mask, unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to stay. We're trying to get our hands on a few extra masks that maybe we can provide. Maybe have a couple, but they're hard to come by to be able to get what would ultimately be 1,200 masks if we provided them for everyone. So Couple extra masks available, but not guaranteed providing of them. And if they want to enter the building, they must have a mask on. And so they'd enter through the south parking lot, be welcomed by a greeter who would guide them to what we're calling a reception room. That reception room would have a host in it, and the host would basically brief the families on what's about to happen, how the flow is going to go. But essentially, we welcome them. We'd have like bottles of water if they wanted to hit a drink, kind of make it a nice little gathering for them. Everything would be pre-wrapped, pre-bottled, of course, so that we don't have to worry about touching of different objects on the table. And then students would get prepped by putting on the cap and gown, getting any cords on that they have earned because of the clubs or the organizations that they're a part of. And then we would also prep the families for pictures, essentially saying you need to have your camera on, make sure it's ready, because this is going to be a very tight time frame. Once the graduate, before you or that next person graduates or heads out onto the stage, we move that family that's in their reception room to a staging area. The staging area is essentially going to be the side of the stage or from the graduate, and now that hallway that goes from the auditorium out to the music hallway. And I've got a map here I'll show you, but parents would stage in that hallway, graduates would stage in the side of the stage, the wing of the stage. And then when the person before them graduates and exits the auditorium to the back, the next graduate's family would move in to a place where we have dictated, we'd announce that next graduate's name, they walk across the stage and be filmed. Maybe the hand sanitizer has wiped my fingerprints off.
Darn.
So I talked about this. We would have principal on the stage, superintendent, board member, and the graduate would then pose for a picture. We'd set it up so that there's a nice background for that picture to be had by a professional photographer. And then we would ask the families to leave through the rear of the auditorium. In the cafeteria, because we know that many times after graduation, people like to gather by the stage. What we were going to do is have 4 different photo booths set up, if you will, so that if they go out in the cafeteria, they'd be assigned a photo booth. They can take pictures with mom, dad, whoever's with them, and it would look just like the stage as best we possibly can do, have some backdrop, and then they could take their photo for memories, and then we'd have somebody out there monitoring that would escort them out the door, down the parking lot, or side lot to the parking lot. And we just keep everyone flowing like that in order to essentially keep a schedule going. And here's just a sample of the schedule. I took out student names. Well, we've gone through the graduation list, which we're estimating about 220 graduates by the time everyone is cleared for graduation. But essentially, here's what the list would look like. Student A would arrive at 8 a.m. with their family. They'd be in reception room 1. They'd report to the staging area at 8:10, and they graduate at 8:15. And then we just go down through the list. And this is the pieces and parts that their letter would indicate when you see those X's. Student A would receive a letter that says their date of graduation is on May 12th, 20. Of course. No. Student A would get a letter that says they're going to graduate on May 12th. They need to arrive at 8 a.m. They're going to report to room 1. Their staging area, this won't be in the letter, but the host of that room would know at 8:10 they need to move them towards the stage, and then their graduation time would be 8:15.
How many people do you have? How many adults are moving those people that quickly through
So
there?
there would be one person for every host room,
Okay.
reception room. There's going to be one greeter at the south door. About halfway up that hall is going to be Mrs. Smith, because she's the one that checks everyone in, gives them the cords that they need based on the clubs they've been in. So you would have one right at the south entrance, one with Mrs. Smith halfway up the hall, if you will, and then one for each host room, and then one out in the cafeteria. So we would need a couple adults that would be shifting people around and escorting them. But they would most likely be our staff, teachers, and then there's a lot of teachers that want to know how they can help. The other thing I should mention, and I'll share this when I get to the map, but with the flow of things, we have 4 custodians that'll be there. And each time a room is vacated, they will wipe down chairs, touch points, and things like that. So each custodian will be assigned one room that they need to make sure is cleaned every time somebody leaves. Try to make it as sterile as possible as far as the environment.
And you've reviewed this plan with Natalie, the nurse.
Mrs. Harbert
Yeah.
is well aware of it, and we did make a few changes in the original plan based on her suggestions. But essentially, this is the flow. You come in here, south entrance, just so you have point of reference, this is the middle school gym. They would come in, room 1 would be our middle school choir room, room 2 would be our high school orchestra room, room 3 would be the classroom down there, is 319, and then room 4 would be the gym. We chose these rooms specifically because windows can be open, we can get a good cross ventilation, so that air is constantly moving, and we're not worrying about recycled air. That's the goal, to have windows open or doors. Like this orchestra room has a door that goes out to the outside. And so then what we would do is that week sometime, we film all of our key speakers, valedictorian, salutatorian class speaker, and then the principal. And we've talked to the musical groups. We're not going to film them in small groups. We would be utilizing 2 different forms of incorporating musical performances. One, probably if you're on Facebook, you've seen where they have all these musical groups in different areas, and they're filming it from their home, and then they compile it. So the class song for Mrs. Kennard would be done that way. She would get as many students as she could. And then our pomp and circumstance, prelude music, things that are normally musical numbers, we would pull from previously filmed graduations so that they would be incorporated into the final product. So we would go ahead and take all those footage from previous performances or the class song mesh together, however they do that, and that's beyond my technology ability. But we would like to go ahead and then meld that into what would be ultimately a graduation ceremony. And here's what I think is probably one of the coolest things that we've come up with. And I should say that this is a group effort. This is us gathering parts and pieces from other places we found. Not all of this is original ideas, so I don't want to take credit for all of this. But with all of these ideas coming together, what we did come across was a town that is doing a parade for their students on graduation. So I've talked to Officer Preston, and she's working with the police department. But our goal would be on May 24th at 1 o'clock, each student would be assigned a parking lot to report to in a car with their parent or guardian, and the student would be seated in a passenger seat. And based on the elementary school that you went to, we would have 4 different parades that leave the school, and they go through, and we want to, once this is approved, we want to get the Gazette on board and Litter Media to try to share where our parade is going to go. But parade routes through the different sections of town where those students grew up and went to elementary. And we'll have 4 different police officers that escort those, and then the hope is that the town would come out and recognize them, cheer for them. And this would be on their graduation day, the 24th of May, meet at the parking lot that they're assigned. So we do different parking lots just to keep, again, spacing. They're not going to get out of their cars, but just to help organize the event. So if you live in Story Place, for example, you might meet at CIS here. If you live up on the hills, Hesswood, the Allen Elementary area, you might report to the high school main parking lot. If you live on south end of town, you might meet in the south parking lot by the YMCA. If you live on the east end, maybe the YMCA parking lot. And then they would all depart from there. The ultimate goal would be every parade would go past the high school to acknowledge their graduation, and then go to the section of town that they went to elementary school.
Real good.
For students who did not go to elementary school in our district, we'd ask them to just pick one of those that they would to parade with. The goal would be then to have everyone back at home by 6 o'clock. And I had put in here fingers crossed as far as premiering the graduation. All of my intelligent people that I work with have told me that there's no way we will guaranteed have this all together in a video format by 6 p.m. on graduation day. I just say fingers crossed because I always still, I just worry. Whenever we're cutting video and splicing, it's only going to give them a week. But they have reassured me over and over that by 6 o'clock on May 24th, we will be able to premiere this graduation on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. And parents can sit at home with their kids, Zoom grandma in, and watch the whole graduation ceremony take place. And every kid will walk across the stage.
So your plan is to do a Zoom parent meeting tomorrow or Wednesday to
Wednesday at
explain all this?
6:30 is our Zoom parent meeting for graduates and their parents to join us. And essentially, I'm going to present this with the parents so that they know what's going on. There's one other piece that I really like, and I talked to Mrs. Lawwell today via email, but I really like what we're going to do after the fact. As you know, the board provides the Chromebook to the senior when they graduate. So when they come for graduation, we're going to ask them to drop off their Chromebook at that time. The tech department will do over the next couple of weeks, whatever they need to do, decommission them, whatever programming they have to do. And graduation, our staff is committed to hand delivering boxes that contain a student's diploma, cords, because, and I say that some of our cords may not be in their full shipment by the time we film. So there might be a cord that, like we have a set of 10, but we don't have enough for all 50. So we'll have to recycle them, wiping them down with Lysol so that everyone can have their picture with the cords, but they may not get their actual cords that day. Mrs. Smith has tried her hardest to get them in place by them, but just in case. We'd like to provide them with an 8x10 photo of them coming across the stage, that professional photo that I mentioned. Any congressional letters that the student has received that they might normally get with a diploma. Obviously, I should have said their diploma in the case. So they won't take their case, their folder home with them that day because for sake of not getting it bent in the box and getting it all ruined, we'll keep the folder. That will then contain the transcript of this package. They'll also include a section of a set of the transcripts, their Chromebook returned, a copy of the program they would have received on graduation day, and then a USB drive containing a video of their graduation, so the ceremony for them to keep, a slideshow of events that their classes participated in, pictures of events and things like that. And then this last piece I didn't talk about because it's in the works, but we are working on, with our Touchdown Club, providing every senior a yard sign that says, class of 2020, once a Cavalier, always a Cavalier, that we as a staff are going to hand deliver to every senior's house. They should be in the next week or so. And what we want to do is whichever staff member delivers them to the houses is have them take a selfie with the class of 2020 sign so that they can, it'll be a slideshow then of all the staff delivering the signs. Obviously, they'll be independent. They're going to deliver them alone. But being able to see all 220 homes having the signs delivered to the front yard. So we just thought that would be kind of cool. So that's what they would receive. And we would hand deliver these. I said mail, but obviously we're going to try not to mail them because they will be when their offices are full bore. But we'd really like to make it nice, put it in the box, wrap it with a ribbon, and drop it off to them individually on the front porches. So that would be the graduation.
Does this include the kids that will graduate from Pickaway Ross as well?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That 220 number is graduates from Pickaway Ross and
Jeff, what's Pickaway Ross?
We'll find out Thursday night.
Okay,
That's the last I heard. It's still in discussion.
okay.
So this is our plan. I just wanted to bring it to you all to see if there's any questions, concerns, things that you would ask us to revisit. We just really want to honor our seniors in the best way possible given the current situation.
I tell you, this will be long remembered,
I hope.
not only by the graduates and them telling their families as they grow older and marry and have a different family. This will go on forever, long after I'm not here. So listen, you folks, you young people sitting here, you vouch for me. You vouch for me. This did take place.
Well,
any questions on this or?
I guess I've got one and I'm sure but, we're gonna have to tell everyone to have a mask, but we're not going to have the graduate walk across the stage in a mask, are we?
Oh, sorry, I did. Benito, who's the king of videoing, has figured out a way where we can suspend plexiglass from the stage. So it'll be between the graduate and those who are honoring them. And this is what he tells them. The way you have the camera angled, the plexiglass will not be visible.
Okay.
So we'll still have that barrier so that the graduate can take off their mask when they walk across the stage.
So do we all have to wear the same clothes all 4 days? So it looks like it's.
That's
Like it was one day,
that's what I'm planning on doing
Okay,
today.
just asking.
just for fun.
Preferably wash them. I should also mention, I know some people might be tuning in, the questions will be asked of some. What are we going to do in the event parent has to work 8 to 3, and this is when my student is graduating? We are going to reserve an evening. Right now, we're looking at Wednesday evening, which would be the middle-ish of these days. And we're going to leave just open slots. And if we need to, we're going to ask every graduate to RSVP to the office. And if they haven't RSVP'd by the week before, our secretaries are going to call the graduates who have not. And if they tell us, oh, my dad works from 8 to 3, obviously, if they're just getting back to work, we don't want them to have to take a day off. So Wednesday night, we would start filling out, like, let's say 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock. And if we have to go to Thursday night to do the same to accommodate people, we will. It's just going to truly depend on people's schedules and what they do. But obviously, what we don't want to do is say to a student's parent, you got to take time off or you just can't come. So we will have evening time slots available on Wednesday. And if we need to, Thursday night to accommodate those who.
Okay. Any other questions? Now, I think we can, keep in the back of our minds that we may want to try to have a regular ceremony for these kids of recognition in June or July if things change a little bit. If this virus actually doesn't spread very well in hot weather outside, like they're saying it doesn't, maybe we have something at Bernstein for.
Yeah, we've got those backup dates in June and July.
Yeah, so-
And so we could do that there.
I'm thinking July will probably be the one.
But a great plan you got.
It is.
Yeah, good work.
Really good.
Good job.
Matt, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Good work. Mr. Harbner, thanks for finding that.
Probably the easy part.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
Okay, going further, welcome to visitors and public participation. No one is here and no one has sent in any questions, so legislative update. I know the legislature hasn't done anything, so let's move on to board action. We have a board resolution. Which one is this, Deb? This is,
Authorization.
authorization for, and we'll just combine the two together, authorization for the superintendent and the treasurer to do some regular business without board approval of some things. Of course, they would not do anything without notifying us first. But as tough as it is to get together now for the next few weeks, this gives them a little authorization in case something needs to be done. I think to the point we haven't had anything that's needed to be done. So, but this gives Debbie and Debbie the authorization. So any questions on it?
Sorry.
Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve both board resolutions. Moved by Mr. Bonner, second by Mrs. Corzine. Roll.
Mrs. Corzine?
Yes.
Mr. Mullins?
Yes.
Mr. Hartness?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Bonner?
Yes. Okay, treasury reports and recommendations. Deb?
Okay, so we did all three of them.
Oh, we just did all the
three?
board resolutions,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. I just need to ask the board to approve A through F.
Noting item E is struck.
Yeah, we took
Yeah.
that.
Okay, yeah, we need more information on the
Yeah.
process, so.
Yeah, we'll get some.
Moved by
additional-
Mr. Hartness, and I'll second it. Roll.
Mrs. Corzine?
Yes.
Mr. Mullins?
Yes.
Mr. Hartness?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Bonner?
Yes. Thank you, Deb. Superintendent's report.
Okay, I'd like to recommend A through G.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Hartness. Roll.
Mr. Bonner,
Yes.
Mrs. Corzine, Mr. Mullins,
Yes.
Mr. Hartmus.
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Discussion informational items. Debbie, anything?
I don't have anything now.
Okay, board member comments. Want to send out our condolences to the Davis family, Martha Davis, just super people, the whole family. Really enjoyed Martha the few years she was here when I was a board member. I know Bill worked with her, and our deepest condolences to the whole family. Martha was a fantastic employee of the district, and it's really sad. Want to also send out our thoughts and prayers to Ashley White, a former teacher here at Chillicothe City School District. She's going through a tough time and going into hospice now, and I think living in Minnesota, I believe. We're definitely thinking of Ashley and her entire family, and so otherwise, right now, as we're looking forward to the future, we are looking at we know we want to get the kids back in here in the fall. We need the kids back in the classroom in some form or another. Debbie is working with other superintendents who feel the exact same. And so the goal is going to be to put together a course of action that gets kids in our buildings. Our hopes are that it could be business as usual. It probably won't be. So we're looking at a plan of half the kids coming in a day for 2 days, half coming in for 2 days, and then the 5th day is teachers planning. That's all the teachers planning periods in one. Who knows how that will turn out? So, but something of that nature. We're going to need a greater internet presence, capability presence for a lot of our kids. What we found out, the offer from Spectrum of the free internet for a lot of our kids, if that family had a past due balance, Spectrum didn't give them any free internet. So we need to find something else. We're working with Josh Montgomery, some potential of setting up some internet stations around town, possibility of making our buses hotspots and parking them around town. So there's a lot of different things we could possibly do there. But there's probably going to have to be an online presence for at least a semester or two next year. But we know we need to get our kids back in the buildings to truly get them educated. And so that's what we're working towards.
I want to say, Steve,
Mhm.
even if this could get us to the first of the year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If something happens and there's treatments or something for this,
Yes.
that we could all be knowledgeable that you may get it, but you're going to be okay, then that maybe changes things. Absolutely. So, but
Keep it
since we don't know that's what we're working towards right now. As far as athletics and things like that nature, who knows? I don't think it looks very good for the future. I know we're probably not going to be able to let any kids or teams do anything in our facilities, probably depending on what the governor has to say, but it'll probably be through June at the minimum. I know at Ohio State, we're shut down for everything through, I think, July 6th. I think that's probably a pretty good question for us, we should just consider our facilities closed through July 6th.
That's
Anyway,
what I've told everyone, until further notice,
Yeah.
all the facilities are closed off. We will have a plan for next school year before you on the May 18th board meeting for you to
Yeah.
review and approve.
So I've had a couple questions about, what does OSHA shut down your facilities? No, OSHA does not shut down our facilities. We run our facilities. They can determine, teams can practice, et cetera, but, we still control our facilities, and we're going to act in the best interest of our kids and the community. So at the May meeting, we're going to review the plans for potential reopening in the fall. Number one. Number two, we are going to probably also review some potential budget cuts. We know we're going to have to look at some. So we're trying to look at things without affecting personnel. We'll see what we can come up with. But that's the goal right now, is to try to save a little bit of money without having to let anyone go. And so we'll see how we do there. So we're going to review that at the May meeting. Anything else?
I would just
Yes.
add that as fluid as this is, Debbie, I wouldn't knock myself out making the schedule because
Yeah.
it could change at any time. I
Yeah.
wouldn't-
can.
And the
would-
principals have been working on it, and they
Sure.
kind of also all came up with kind of the same plan, which was nice. I asked them to do option 1 and option 2.
Sure.
And I think because we've done pretty well since March, kind of rolling out the in-home online stuff, that's made it a little easier for us. But I think we'll be okay. But yeah, we won't spend months and weeks on it.
Yeah. they're-
Thank you.
And you know, what we're seeing is most other school districts are looking to a similar type schedule as what we're looking towards. So we're not inventing anything new here.
Correct.
If there is nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hartmus,
Second.
second by Mr. Bonner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Matt. You did a nice job.
Matt,